Vasyl Lomachenko beats the brakes off Masayoshi Nakatani. Probably the best I've seen him look in a few years, maybe even before the Linares fight, because he did get floored in that one, didn't he? He did show that little vulnerability. The shoulder seems okay. Had no problems at all dealing with a much bigger man, which since Lomachenko has moved up to lightweight, everyone has pretty much agreed that seems to be a slight Achilles heel here. He is not physically a big man at this weight. There's a lot of tall, rangy guys at 135, and it seems like he's found it a lot more difficult to impose himself. But against the more ragged, easier to hit Nakatani, he was able to break this guy down. Great to see, much more back to form. It looked in about round 4 that this one might get a bit scrappy because Nakatani kept clinching because, of course, he's not very adept up close. He was a bit of an octopus on a number of occasions, and it looked like it may just go. It wasn't flowing, the fight. It was a little bit ugly to watch for a short period of time. But then Lomachenko kept punishing him, and, crucially, Lomachenko kept fighting his way out of the clinches. This wasn't necessarily the most pretty of high-tech fights. When people think skill, high-tech skill, they think of everything crisp, beautifully moving like a dance, everything choreographed. And we know Lomachenko has definitely had some of those moments. But this was much more of that rugged skill. The kind of skill that isn't always that apparent. But most really great fighters know how to fight a little bit dirty. They know how to bend the rules. And Lomachenko knows how to use his forearms, push you down at the back of the neck to make you use your own strength against you. And he was fighting out of those clinches and then making Nakatani try and defend when he couldn't in those awkward, compromised positions. Of course, he can't really throw up close. He doesn't have those short punches. He doesn't have the footwork or the shoulder rolls to deal with it. Lomachenko knows that, and that's why he started mugging him. It was nice to see. The fight looked like it was going a bit scrappy, and then Lomachenko with the first knockdown pushes him away and then pounces on that opportunity he's just created by pushing him away. Showing those layers he has to himself. He's not just a fancy Dan. This guy can mug you in different ways. He's not just a tremendous amateur who needs to have everything his own way. He can get down and dirty. When the ending came in the 9th round, it seemed like a bit of a surprise to me because Nakatani hadn't taken a huge beating. He hadn't had loads of head snappers. I think partly what it was is when you keep missing against Lomachenko, like he really hadn't had any success, had he? Against Lopez, Nakatani was landing some nice right hands. In that fight, he could probably think, I might just land the perfect shot and put Lopez out here. But against Lomachenko, he had really he had no kind of work rate because he was basically missing all the time. The way Lomachenko leans one way, then the other, the way he skirts around you. I can't really remember one clean headshot that Nakatani landed. And so when he started to wilt in that 9th round, and I was thinking, this is a kind of sudden because I know how resilient the Japanese is. I think partly it was to do with the mental exhaustion of not being able to land on this guy. It wasn't just the punishment. When you feel that you're just nowhere in the fight and you can't pin this guy down, and that's supposed to be your strength going into this fight, you're supposed to be the bigger guy who might just do some damage to this injury-prone little guy. When that's not working at all and you can't even land one clean shot, I bet the ring feels like a particularly small place. And Lomachenko just put his punches together and did exactly what he needed to do. I thought he may win a dominant points decision. He ends up stopping him and definitely sending that message that he wanted to send. That I did one better than you, Teofimo Lopez, and I really deserve the rematch. Now, after the fight, we had the promotional, whatever it was. Hopefully not just for show. Teofimo's dad and Bob Arum shake hands, and apparently there is going to be the Lopez-Loma rematch. Definitely not December. Fights always happen later than when we'd hope they would. So hopefully, if Lopez gets past George Kambosos, which has already been rescheduled, hopefully Loma Lopez can be made early next year. For me, the most interesting fight in boxing. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, I'm bored of hearing about it, and they might even be past their bests right now. And Terence Crawford against Errol Spence, I just don't think it's going to happen. So Teofimo Lopez against Lomachenko 2, it's very interesting. Lomachenko knows he has to take the early initiative this time, but that will open him up to the potential counter problems, the big punches of Teofimo Lopez. Nakatani, of course, doesn't have can't fight at the range as Lopez can. And of course, one thing Teofimo Lopez has that a lot of Vasyl Lomachenko opponents don't have is he has a lot of athleticism. He's a very springy, powerful young man. Lomachenko normally has everyone for athleticism. Lopez's own athleticism offsets a lot of what is special in Lomachenko, and that's what makes this so intriguing. Of course, he's a much more together boxer than Nakatani as well. But we can't downplay what Lomachenko just did to the Japanese. This wasn't an easy fight. It did have a bit of a bad vibe going into it. Hadn't fought in a while. We know he's had shoulder problems. A lot of people were picking Nakatani, and it wouldn't have completely surprised me had he managed to stop high-tech. But it didn't happen. We saw those layers he has to himself. This guy can box beautifully, and he can mug you as well if need be. So, great performance. And in a perfect world, we will get the Lopez-Lomachenko rematch spring 2022.